don't have a 20mm impact, but this won't shatter. It will just spin it. Right. There we go. Off it comes. Whoa, there we go. So chrome nuts don't exactly shatter. I don't have a 20mm impact, but there you go. The bolt has come off with its washer, which I believe might be part of the rebuild kit. It might not be. Yeah, right. So I'll just put that over there. And let's strap the filter. Ooh, okay. Look at that. It's quite dirty on the inside, that. Yeah, that's quite dirty. Yeah, there's a lot of rubbish on that. That's what that filter is designed to protect. Now, if I just compare it with the new one, yeah, a bit of a major difference there. So, put that back over there, and I'll put that in the bin. And that's literally that. Oh my goodness me. Got a bit of sawdust coming out. What the hell? I think we've got some loose sediment here. This is what happens with carburetor rebuilds. Ooh. Now there's quite a few tools that I actually forgot to include on this. So you can probably add some more tools, because I didn't know what to expect when I opened this up. But the next instruction is to basically tap out this float pin. So this float has got a pin that it just hinges off. Tap the float pin out. Now I believe it's quite loose actually. That can be pushed forwards and backwards. Now I would just get a pick to see what happens. I think I'll need to come from this side. So just try and push it. There we go. It's actually gone. It's actually gone. I've actually done it with hand. Sometimes in the past, no need for the hammer then. These need proper knocking out. That's going to have to be cleaned as well. So I'll just pop that over there. Just pop that there as well. And just move this mess. And now the float is completely free. And we have the, as I say, the float, the needle is hinged. Okay. That is hinged off one side of the float. Okay. So as we're looking at it, the right hand side of the float, because that needle valve, we're going to, as I say, just take it off. Okay, that float can now be put aside. Interestingly, the float is made from a rubber, a petrol resistant rubber, no doubt. Now the biggest problem with SUV carburetors of a certain age is that the float is made of plastic. What happens is, if that plastic, with E10 in particular, or ethanol, it will puncture a hole in the float and it will just sink. And basically what will happen is the valve will be constantly shut. So you'll drive down the road and your car will cut out because there's no fuel coming in, because that valve is shut, because the floater's just sunk. Because obviously water's got in there, it's going to sink. Well, petrol I should say. Now I'm confusing you guys, but that, yeah, should be a little bit of wear on there, but overall it should be okay. If we compare that to the new one, I'll tell you what though, I'm not particularly happy with this cap. I might have to switch it over because this looks a bit thinner on the new one, but it looks exactly the same diameter and everything. So I'm just going to put that float valve there, and that will go in the spares. This float will go on the side with the pin as well, so we'll just pop that over there. Right, next one. Then what we need to do is extract the housing, the actual housing itself, with a 10mm, and it should just, there we go, without breaking anything. Just unscrews that. Now it comes out with its own washer. Now that's in the kit as well, so I'll just put that on the side as well. Right, having consorted with the Haynes Book of Lies, I'm gonna go and come back to this. Right, the throttle kicker, which is right here. Okay. Right, we've got to remove this from the main body. So the biggest way of doing this, I don't know if you can see, we've got a couple of screws. They go through the body and they're held in with nuts on the other side. That's it. So I can't see any other way that they are held on. there is a nut on the back side, so you've got the throttle kicker. Okay, you've got the little valve, the little leg that moves the diaphragm. Now you see this nut here? It's held in with this tab. That's what I meant by these. Okay, it's a new one of them. So what you've got to do is you've got to bang that out. So I'll tell you what, we'll try and see if I can just push it out with my stiff. Ow! This is what happens. There we go. And just bend it back. Come on. There we go. Now, that is primed for, I think it's a 12 mil, but I think I'll get away with it. So 12 mil. And just take the nut straight off. Now it will want to move this thing, and the only problem is the whole shaft is going to want to move with that nut. So just be conscious of that. What I'm going to do is turn it upside down and get it out that way. Oh, right, so that's free now. That is, we can wind that nut all the way out. Okay, so I'm going to have to find out where that came from, because that's dropped out of absolute nowhere. Well, it hasn't dropped out of nowhere, it does go somewhere, but yeah. Okay, well that's all part of the fun of rebuilding. I'm going to have to consult my original video. But that can be taken off, that tab. The locking tab is off. And now, there we go. We've got another nut, which is sort of spacer. And then put that there. Remember, just put it in order that it came out. And then the throttle kicker, just take the leg off. Lovely. Right, that's all free now. So now we're ready to just take the whole damn thing out. Right, before we remove the throttle kicker, this piece that has just come out is quite critical. That is a jet, believe it or not. See the the secondary jets that came out? Well, the bottom's still attached. It's actually stuck in there. That shouldn't be like that. It shouldn't be stuck in there. I've just realised that. So put that back in there. The one that came out, don't lose the order, Andrew. The one that came out hasn't got the jet in. There we go. Now it has. I thought there was something funny about that. I thought it was sort of conical. I didn't realise that it was actually two pieces. So it is a kind of combined jet assembly. Now, I just want to show you. When I pulled off that that last nut, washer came off as well. Okay, there is an exploded diagram on here, so I shouldn't go wrong. But what you've got to do is you've got to now take these two screws out, but because they go through there, you've got to hold it with an 8mm spanner and then take it off with a screwdriver on the other side. Oh, fun times. Right. I think what the idea would be is to crack these off. Oh, it's gone. Right, the nut's gone. The nut's gone, but the actual screw isn't spinning. Right, get that blasted nut off. And this one, just put that over there. Got two washers on here, but essentially now, if I just take the screw completely out. Oh, God. That was hard, wasn't it? So we've got a washer on that side that's just fallen off, and we've got a spring washer. You have to watch every single thing you're taking off, because there's so many washers and little clips here and there that you just will, when you're rebuilding it, catch you out. There, remember, I've just put it in order. I will start organising this more, but I want everything associated. So the float, needle and valve, pin, main jets in the order that I know them. Main body, vacuum diaphragm with screws, and we've got this pull down assembly, which I'm actually going to put over here. We're going to start putting them in corners, because this is the only way, laying them out like this is the only way you're going to know what part of the kit goes where. There we go, and the whole thing comes out. That is your throttle kicker, which basically keeps the idle nice and true. So there we go. Now we've got some screws into the main body. I'll have a look at that in a second. I'll move all this to this corner, and then we go to the next thing. Right, the next one is to remove this anti-dieseling solenoid. So here we go again, 20mm. Oh, well, that was very, very simple. Came straight out. Didn't even put up a fight. As you can see, you got a plunger there that acts on... I have no idea, actually. I have no idea. But it's basically, as soon as you turn the ignition off, to stop overrunning so that it will continue running. I had that with the P6 where I'd switch the ignition off. Mainly because the ignition timing was so advanced that the engine just ran. It was spinning so fast, it was untrue. It went right out of tune. Couldn't work out what it was at first. But it would run on for about 3 or 4 seconds after turning the key. Take the key out, you could physically take the key out and the engine's still running. Obviously, in the days of electrics, electrical fuel pumps, electronic ignition, electronic fuel injection, as soon as you turn the key off, that's it, it stops dead. But on cars of this age, it's a bit like diesel runoff, because petrol runoff was also a thing as well. So I'm just going to put that anti-dieseling solenoid in its own particular place. And then we have removed the 4 screws securing the accelerator pump assembly and dismantle the assembly. Right, the accelerator pump is on this side. So the throttle kicker is off. Okay, that's out the way, it's removed. Now, what I will do is I'll take actually this body off, because we've got 2 screws here and 2 screws in. We'll get all this out the way. I will need to remove this in order to access the accelerator pump screws. So I will kind of do that now and put all that bracket with the throttle kicker stuff. Just make sure that it is really close. Right. That's the last screw. I'll put them screws with all the throttle kicker, and this bracket simply lifts away. It's sort of caught on this a little bit, so it's just a little down. Okay, so now that is out the right way and removed, we can now get at the accelerator pump here. Now this accelerator pump has one purpose. When you go from idle to moving off, i.e. acceleration, whether it's slow acceleration or quick acceleration, this will basically move the fuel mixture from the idle circuit to the secondary circuit. Remember, we've got these 2 main jets. One's the primary circuit, one's the secondary, one's for idle, one's for moving off. And what this does, it adds just a little bit of fuel, because going from idle to acceleration, there's naturally a bit of a weak mixture for a second or 2. And this will just pump a tiny burst of fuel just to keep things from sort of stuttering a little bit. Old cars are quite like that. When you go from a standing position at the traffic lights and you move off, there's like a cough, then go. It's like a slight fraction of a cough. That's what we're talking about. And this accelerator pump basically acts on the acceleration shaft. Exactly how the throttle kicker does. The throttle kicker sat here and then acted on this shaft, okay, the whole shaft. Because if I move this throttle, look. Now, if I move this throttle a lot, now if I'm just going to bring you in, okay. So it's idling, okay. So we've got the idle screw. So it's all idling nice and fine. And then suddenly Andrew wants to move away. See how it moves? That is full acceleration. That arm acts on the diaphragm inside there, and basically the acceleration pump puts a little bit extra fuel in, just a little bit. As soon as you move off like that, as soon as you move off, the arm moves, and you get that, just that little bit of acceleration. That's how it works. I love the fact that it says Weber on top of it. Yes, 4 screws and off we come. Oh, simple dimple. A service basically takes it back to square one. Make sure there's no air leaks, i.e. with the gasket, and make sure that everything is okay, because sometimes things can wear. Now, I'm taking this extra screw out. Now I can feel the pressure already inside there, so I'm going to put my thumb down to stop any spring going away, because if I'm right in thinking there's a spring behind here. Oh, yeah, there is. Right. Okay. Now remember, this arm, it comes straight off because it just acts on the accelerator shaft. But anyway, take it out. Lovely. We've got a spring as well. And we have a diaphragm, which is in the kit. Just going to take that back very, very gently. Oof, okay, there we go. Now this diaphragm, I've got the new one here. This is quite flexible. It's a bit thinner. I would say this is a bit thinner than the original. But you see how hard this is? That's gone hard, that has. There's no holes or perforations, but that's gone hard. That will affect how it works. Whereas this new one is flexible. It's actually flexible. But I'll be keeping this in the spares. But nevertheless, we'll just put the new one back over there, and we'll keep this over here with the body itself just pivoting on. That's all this is. Okay, now there's 2 little holes here, and what essentially that does, I think there's a little jet in there where it actually squirts just a little bit more fuel in. I don't know how it technically works. I've got a feeling there's a hole on this side and there's a hole on the other side where all the fuel is. So I've got a feeling it is something to do with that. Very technical again, you know. Anyway, put this aside all together. Next one. Are you bored yet? Go and get a cup of tea, because this is one of them videos that no other YouTuber wants to make because it's so boring. It's so boring. Now, oh, that's so good. That is really, really good. Now, this arm, I believe, is... Ah, no, it will come out. Right, this arm is just keyed in. I probably won't move it at the moment because I don't really want to. But we've got 4 Phillips screws that hold the throttle kicker. By the way, there is an adjustment. There's this tamper-proof fixing is actually holed up. Someone's been in here before. But there is a screw in there to adjust the throttle kicker. There was a way of doing that, and when it all goes back together, I'll show you how to, well, basically how I adjust the throttle kicker to make sure everything's good. I've got to be honest with you though, if you've seen in part 1 where I, well, no, not part 1, the reveal, where I actually drive the car backwards and forwards, you see how smooth it engaged from park to drive, not a shudder, not a hint of anything. Maybe because the choke was on, or maybe because this is set up correctly. In that case, I'm not really want to go and mess with it. So, but this is so therapeutic, it's untrue. Just screws and little oddities here and there. Far more technically sophisticated than an SU carburetor. Weber were the best. SUs are very simple, and they are a variable Venturi design. It's as simple as that. Very simple, very complex. Simple and robust. I'm just going to take the cover off. Now, I can't completely take it off that arm because this arm is attached. Now, this is not included in the kit. Okay, so be very careful about that. But again, these are quite high quality, but we don't want to ruin that. So we're going to put that over there. As I say, there's not everything is included in this kit. I will say that. Spring and the adjuster. That adjuster just comes in and out, and obviously it takes a vacuum from the inlet manifold through the throttle kicker solenoid, which is somewhere over there, believe it or not. I actually took that off the car, but we'll just put the screws over here. Good. Right, so just leave the throttle kicker. Now, next instruction. Disconnect the secondary barrel operating rod by pulling the lower section of the rod downwards and twisting it to release from its socket. Remove all 4 retaining screws and dismantle the assembly. Now, okay, so I was having a look at this, and basically on the other side we have 1, 2, 3. I can't see a 4th screw. Is that the 4th screw? Yes, it might be. Yes, it is. The 4th screw goes through there. Okay. So you can see the rod that links to the secondary barrel up here. Well, we call it the secondary barrel because that's the primary barrel, and this is the choke. What you've got to do is you've got to take that rod out of that groove. Now, I'll be very gentle with that because that looks like plastic. So go gently and pry it upwards, and then you can take the screws out and release the whole assembly. Basically, all you need to do is get a flat blade screwdriver under there and poke it out. You see what I've done there? I've just broken this lever. So now that's free. That's completely free now. Okay, so I've broken. Sorry, I'm trying to get in the right position for you. Okay, so that's completely broken. That collet, by the way, I'll just take that out. Just take it out. Come on. Come on, come out, come out. Does that not look familiar? Oh yeah, that's in the rebuild kit as well. If I just put that there. We've got a new one in black. Yes. So I know where that comes from. Right, so now that's completely free. You can proceed by taking the whole thing, this whole assembly, this whole choke pull down assembly as they call it, out. So 1 screw. The whole thing's come off. Brilliant. Well, we got that sorted. I'll just take that screw out. So we've got 3 screws. Now we've got the 4th screw that goes through the center there. Now that holds all that together. So I'm just going to actually keep that as one unit and just put it there for the second. But we literally have just this attached. Literally that feed, which I'm probably going to take out. I've got a feeling this is a stupid size. We've got an 11mm. Oh, God almighty. Here we go. There we go. Lovely. So we got this, just the feed hose. That's the hole that the fuel comes into the carburetor. Wow, that's tiny. But there's no sealing wash or anything. Nope, nope, nope. Not at all. There's just a little dowel there. Right, fantastic. Now I am going to take the last thing off this part of the body, which is the upper body because it sits like that, is this thing. Now, it's just literally a disc. And we've got the other one. That is also in the repair kit as well. So I might just take this whole rod straight out. So if I just pry up there. Come on. There we go. That's the rod. That will need a bit of a clean up because that is gummed up to high heaven. There we go. That's quite gummed up, that is. That's not going to help either. See, the problem is, because there's so many moving parts, you have to say everything has to be free. So now, all we've got is this throttle plate. And we just take the throttle plate out. By taking these, well, the throttle plate, the choke plate. That's quite hard, that is. Sometimes these screws are reluctant to move. There we go. That's tight, that is. There you go. It's quite dirty, that throttle disc. But, yeah, it only goes in one way, okay? Because it is just the shape of the actual Venturi itself. And we can just slide this out now. It's just held in. There we go. Now, we've got a plastic bush. And I believe... Don't know if we've got that in the kit. I don't think we have, but there is a plastic bush that basically goes in this shaft there to stop any free play from occurring. But ideally, that's all good. So I'm just going to put all that to one side again. Lovely. That is completely and utterly stripped down. Now, there's a lot of dirt. I don't know if this camera can pick this up. There's a lot of dirt around where the throttle closes, well, the choke closes. So ideally, you don't want this from occurring. But that is now stripped completely. Now we've got to go to this particular item. This is what we call the power valve, and this will basically richen the mixture up completely on full throttle, and it's just held in with a few screws. And again, we have actually got the diaphragm from this in the kit. How interesting that is. So I've got a feeling this kit is quite generic to a few carburetors, and basically they've just given you the bits that all three carburetors use, because I would have thought the throttle kicker diaphragm would have been included in this, but because the throttle kicker is kind of unique, typically you can't, well, I suspect you can order these parts, but so it's not the most comprehensive rebuild kit, but it's okay. Now the power valve is going to want to push out. It's already spring loaded like that, so just take the screws out and have your finger over the edge. I'll warn you, that will just ping. That's going to ping over the other side of the room, and you're going to be looking for a spring for the rest of your life. So just open it out, and we have a very high tensioned spring. So spring, housing, and we have a diaphragm. There we go. Simple rubber diaphragm. That feels fresh. That feels hard. This is why rebuilds are so important. Brilliant. And it just goes in there basically. That doesn't come out or anything. I'm assuming it doesn't. No, I don't think it does. I really wouldn't want to move that, but basically I've got a feeling if I get a pick, oh yeah, inside there's a ball bearing. That's got a special purpose of its own. Well, I wouldn't want to disturb that too much. Right, so I'll just move these and we'll go on to the next one. Right, let's take the idle screw straight out, and it's moved quite frequently. I have taken a rough measurement of where this is. The car was idling quite fast anyway, so this is not the correct idle speed setting. But this is awkward because the carburetor sits like this, so this is looking towards the front of the car, but all the adjustments, well, the fast idle is on the side, but the mixture and the idle is on the back side. So there's no way I could get this screwdriver between the screw and the bulkhead of the car, because it's literally like that towards the scuttle. There's no way I could use a screwdriver. So if I can get this freed up a little bit more, that would be really handy. Take the screw straight out. Okay. Now watch for the spring. There is a spring attached to this, so it keeps it nice and tensioned. Get ready for the spring. There we go. Done. It's nice and loose now. That is completely loose. I'm going to pop that in its own place. Right, next thing, I've got to bend that tab. So I'm just going to get my little pick and just pry it out. Pry. Sounded like Jonathan Was just then. Honestly. There we go. This is really difficult. You just got to get it away from that 13mm nut. Enough to get a socket on. Now, should be able to get this on and release it. No, I can't. Right, I'm going to have to take this stupid clip out. So there's a clip just holding this back end piece on. I'm just going to take that out, just pry it across. There we go. That clip is out. It's just a little C-clip. And the whole thing comes out. Right, I'll just, as I say, it goes in like that and goes like that. So pull the pin out and take it out. Okay, and what I'll do, I'll pop that back on there, just roughly. Okay, so we don't lose that. Now we've got access to this. Oh, that was not tight at all. That was quite loose. So just take out that little nut. There we go. Put that nut there. Right, next thing. Right, so that little piece can come out now because I've taken the nut off. Remember, this is the shaft that goes all the way through to this side. So this is your throttle shaft. Now, I don't know why my pick... Come on. Oh, God, this must be so boring to watch. I'll get that off in a second, but you get the idea. The next thing I'm going to take out is this fast idle screw. Now, the idea of fast idle, that is basically what sets the speed of the choke when you pull the choke cable out. If you pull the choke cable out fully, that screw should be set so far inwards to allow it to idle, fast idle at like, I think 2,800 RPM is the figure for this car. Every car is different, but that screw needs to be set up for fast idle. Once that's set up under the right condition, that screw is then correct, because the idea is that would operate under certain conditions. But if I just show you this, and this is how this twin Venturi works. So you're going down the road and you pull the throttle. So that one is opening, okay? That one's opening. Okay, the whole shaft is moving. So you're going down the road, partial throttle. And now we go for full throttle. Hey! So basically, this bit acts on this bit, but it doesn't pull this until a certain moment. So if I keep on, there you go. See, that cam gets moved. That moves that, and that moves that. So if I just do this, I would say the point at which this starts to move, look how far open this throttle is. So you won't get that secondary Venturi opening up unless it's almost pretty much 70% throttle. I would say that is pretty much 60 to 70% of the way through its travel, and then the other one assists. That's very, very clever. So that's kind of what you need to, that's what you need to expect from this carb. Anyway, I'm going to take that out. I'm going to take that out. We're going to take these two screws out, these two screws out, and we'll see what we can get off. Fast idle screw. Now this fast idle screw has got a spring on it as usual. So very careful. There we go. The screw comes out. The spring comes out, the screw goes in the spring, okay? And we've got a little plastic gubbing that sits on this bracket. Just put that screw into there. It goes as one complete unit. I'm going to put it next to the idle screw so we know where it goes. Right, so now that bracket is completely empty and void. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take each and every single one of these screws out, because these discs have got to come out. Right, I've managed to get the 4 screws out, well, 2 each, so we can now pull the discs out. There's the 1, and there's the 2. Right, I have 2 discs. Okay, now I don't think it particularly matters which one's which, as long as, I suspect they need to go back in their usual place, but I'll just place them like that. Right. Now we're in the position where we've got access to the shaft more or less. Now I need to work out what's holding it on. So this is where you need to just do a little bit of inspection All right, this throttle lever is loose. It should just pop off. There you go. And it will only go on one way because it's a square. So it will only go on one way. So I'll take that off. And right, now this is where you got to be careful. The return spring. Now I've got to be very, very careful here. Now this is important. When I take this off, there's a spring here. So it sits like that. And it goes round. It's starting to come out. Okay. It doesn't normally sit like that, but it's starting to come out. It wraps itself around this spindle shaft. Part of it is hooked to, come on, there, where my finger is. And then the other part goes into there, where it splines in. So now we can remove this, knowing how it goes on. Right, squeaky bum time. There you go. Out it comes with the spring, shaft and bush. The whole lot. The whole lot. We've got a bush. We've got a spring. I would keep this as a complete unit. So we've got the spring, or we've got an inner bush. Okay. Now it doesn't come with the rebuild kit, but I don't think it's got any wear in it as far as I can see. So that goes through the center. Okay. And the spring just sits on the outside. Keep that together, and I suggest you leave that well alone, because my experience is just that. Now, we literally just have this stop lever here. Now, again, we've got another return spring, but this return spring is just hooked on. So I suggest just pull this. Now again, this is really important. Now this one, I'm not so sure about how we are supposed to release the... Oh, hold on, it just pulls out. Oh, I didn't realise it did that. Oh, brilliant. That will just pull straight out then. So we can pull that out. There's no return spring. That will come out. That is the back barrel as far as I'm concerned. No, it's the front one. Sorry. The front one. Okay, it is the front one. Take that out as a complete unit. We're a bit all over the place here, but we'll know where it all goes back in, because it'll allow me to clean all this up, including that's a bush, that's replacement. Oh, that comes in the kit. Well done. This one is a bit more tricky. So we've got a little spring there that hooks against there. We've got to release that. And this one, if I can see the back side of it, it hooks to that little piece there. There you go. That's your reference point. And I'm going to take that off camera because that's a dodgy subject. Right, after a bit of trial and error, I've used a pick to release this spring. That's now loose. That's just gone floppy. This one, I've also released. You can see the hook, it's come off. There you go. It's all floppy now. There's no return action in that. So we can now, I believe we can slip some of this off. So just bear with a second. Shouldn't be any connection on there. I think it's just stuck. Oh, and we got there. I had to put some penetrating spray because this piece was literally, oh, it was stuck on the shaft. Well, we can take that off. Right, so that's the first piece. That's the second piece, which only goes on straight onto the shaft because it's a straight shaft. We've got the small spring. Remember, this side is on the throttle side. This is the throttle kicker side. So remember, Andrew, just take all this out in situ, including the whole shaft. It's going to all have to be cleaned because a dirty shaft is going to mean more resistance and, well, the throttle plates are not going to open as willingly. Bingo. And we just got one final thing to do, but let me just reorganize this. Gonna work out where this has come from. I've mislaid where that was supposed to come from, but this is everything in its entirety. It's a complicated carburetor. I can understand why this job is a few £100, and we're just going to remove the pitot tube very, very gently. And it should just come out. There we go. And with a seal. Yeah. I'll put that over there. I'm going to leave that here because everything on this table is going to be cleaned to an inch of its life. And then we put it back together again. I think I'll leave it here. Get a H3 and get that mixture screw right out. That was tight.